here. Help me on a quorum, Debbie. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Debbie says we're good.
We are good. Okay, perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December meeting of the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency. This is an exciting meeting for us and a little bit of a sad meeting because we are in the process of replacing our longtime executive director, Fran McNair, who will retire after the first of the year. So that's the large majority of our agenda. But let's go ahead and do a normal round of introductions. And we'll save our candidate for when we get to the introduction or to the interview portion of the meeting. So I'm Jim Cooper from the City of Olympia. I'm the chair. Cynthia?
I'm Cynthia Pratt, Deputy Mayor of the City of Lacey and Vice Chair of ORCAA.
Greg?
Jefferson County Commissioner and Board Member.
Jill?
Jill Warney, Grace Harbor County Commissioner.
Josh?
Hello, I'm Joshua Cummings of Thurston County. I'm filling in for Commissioner Carolina Mejia. The Board of County Commissioners is in budget deliberations today.
Thanks, Josh. Randy?
Randy Netherland, Mason County Commission.
Bill?
Bill Peach, Clallam County Commissioner.
Did I miss any board members? Doesn't look like it. Okay, Fran, can you walk us through the staff and council?
Yes. Fran McNair, Executive Director.
Jeff Myers of Law Lyman, Daniel Kammerer and Bogdanovich, General Counsel.
Mike Throgmorton.
Mike Throgmorton, same law firm.
So I'm going to go to the back of the room now. So Dan
Nelson, Communications Manager. Mark Gooden, Supervising Engineer for the agency.
Odell Hadley, Senior Monitoring Specialist.
Robert Moody, Compliance Manager.
Lynn Harding, Administrative Services Manager. Debbie Moody, Office Manager. And Nick.
Nick Grant, Network Administrator.
That's staff.
You have a few more staff on though, right?
We have staff that we have general staff that are not managers. They can introduce themselves if they'd like. Would you like them to introduce themselves?
Yeah, let's do it quick.
Okay, Jennifer.
Jennifer DeMay, Engineering Supervisor.
Rob.
Rob Weiland, Air Quality Specialist.
Lauren.
Lauren Wybrew, Engineer 1.
I thought I saw Mike Schultz too. Oh,
yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Mike Schultz, Compliance Supervisor.
Did I miss anybody else? Allie? Allie, you want to introduce yourself? You're muted. Allie? Okay, Allie's side is compliance. Okay, we'll move on.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see everyone here today. And so I just need to check in with board members. Is everybody okay with the agenda?
Yep.
Looking good? Okay, we have an agenda. Perfect. Thank you. So chair report, I'll save for the moment when we do the interviews, and I'll just update you on the work of the personnel committee. Cynthia, anything on finance?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, great. So that moves us to item 4, which is public comment. Is there any public comment today from anyone on the call? Okay, hearing no public comment, that will take us to item 5, which is our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, or polls? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So I'll just take a quick minute and welcome Councilmember Joan Cathy from the City of Tumwater. Good to see you. And then for our candidate, Jeff, just so you know, we'll have those directors in the back introduce themselves again closer to the mic when they talk to you, so you'll get their names more clearly. Great. Okay, so we're going to go into our big item of business for the morning, which is to interview our finalist for the executive director position. And so just wanted to give a quick recap on what we've been up to. So we had our position out on the streets for about 5 or 6 weeks, and we had 30 applicants, and the personnel committee interviewed 6. That included 2 internal candidates, and to be totally honest, all 6 of the people that we interviewed could have easily walked in and done the job. The exciting part about this is Jeff just rose above the pool in a way that actually I haven't seen very often in my career. So it's really exciting to bring him to the ORCAA board for a discussion and an interview, and then we'll take some time to go into executive session and talk about his qualifications for the job. And see where we go from there. So we're on a little bit of a tight timeline because we want to make sure we have time both for a good question and answer time and the executive session. And so I'm gonna time this kind of tight. And so the way it will work is we will do a set of questions. Everyone will have 5 minutes total for their questions. So think about a congressional hearing, including the time it takes to ask your question, is the 5 minutes, and no yielding your time to anyone else. And we have 65 minutes total in that plan with the board and the directors. And then I'll also have Jeff take 5 minutes to introduce himself and tell us why he's passionate about air quality. I'll be happy to talk about the qualifications and some of that other parts of the process as we're allowed in executive session if folks have questions about stuff that happened prior to today as well. Let me just make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Cynthia, anything, or Greg, anything else we should say about the process before I move into the interview?
Shout out to Linnea at the city for the support. I don't think we could have done it without her, and she was invaluable.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I will ask the board if anyone wants to make a personal contribution to a small gift for Linnea, and I'll take care of doing something out of our personal funds. So if any folks want to, just reach out to me, and I'll make sure that she gets a good thank you for that, because it's been really helpful that she was willing to do that while doing her day job. So thank you for that, Greg. Okay, so we'll Cynthia.
I'm the timekeeper, and you'll hear a buzzer or a ding or something when your 5 minutes are up, just so you know.
Great. And then I'm going to after Jeff introduces himself, I will call on folks and alternate between board and staff members. And so I just have the list written down from the website, and so I'll call through it. And I apologize, I might just call people even if they're not here, because I'm only looking at the camera view right now. So I want to make sure I can pay attention to the meeting. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Jeff Johnston. Jeff, as I said, was an excellent candidate. In fact, the best candidate in writing and orally. And so it's really a pleasure to bring him as a finalist and ask you to consider him for possibly the position of executive director for our agency. And so, Jeff, I'm not going to say anything else about you, and I just love to have you take 5 minutes to introduce yourself and tell us, why you're here, and then we'll go into the question and answer period.
Great. Well, can you hear me okay? Let me
Absolutely.
do a mic check first. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Councilmember Cooper, and the rest of the board for the invitation to join you today. And that's hopefully I can live up to those high expectations that you've set there, Councilmember Cooper. Yeah, again, very pleased to be with you today and to be under consideration as the next executive director for the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency. I believe that my academic background and my past professional experience do make me, in fact, an ideal candidate for this position. As you've probably seen in my resume, I have bachelor's and PhD degrees in chemistry from the University of California, San Diego. My PhD research focused on developing a better understanding of ground level ozone. I then had 2 postdoctoral appointments, also working in areas important to atmospheric chemistry. I spent 4 years as an assistant director at the Center for Teaching at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, focused on supporting the teaching and learning mission of the university. And I mention this because I see communication and outreach, teaching and learning about the importance of air quality issues as one of the most important missions of ORCAA. My wife and I moved to Olympia, which is, my wife is originally from the Olympia area, but we moved here in 2008, and I went to work for Ecology's air quality program, where I spent 7 years managing the science and engineering section, a team that grew from 8 to 12 during my tenure as the section manager. In that role, I learned the details of the federal and state Clean Air Acts, and I work closely with ORCAA and the other 6 local air agencies on a wide variety of air quality issues. My team at Ecology issued air quality permits, we developed emissions inventories, we did air quality forecasting, and a variety of other things directly in line with ORCAA's line of work. In 2015, I moved to Ecology's Toxic Cleanup program to manage the information and policy section. The cleanup program is responsible for managing more than 13,000 known contaminated sites around the state, as well as close to 9,000 underground storage tanks across the state. So my team of about 30 in the cleanup program has the responsibility for developing the policies, the regulations, the guidance to carry out this work. Another part of my team is responsible for developing and maintaining the web applications and other IT systems needed to do the work. And yet another part of my team manages the program's records and responds to public disclosure requests. So a little bit about my background and what I bring to the table. In terms of why I'm interested in the position, well, there's a variety of reasons. I'm really, again, the more I think about it, as over the past month or so, as I put my application materials together, and then I've had various conversations, first with the personnel committee and then with a variety of others, just get more and more excited about this opportunity. I'm excited to get back into the field of air quality. Another thing is that my current position in the cleanup program is pretty removed from implementation. Again, I see the folks out in the regions, in the regional offices doing the implementation as our key customers. But so the idea of stepping into this position at ORCAA, where I'm in a more direct implementation role, I find that really exciting. Air quality is a local, regional, national, and global issue. So I'm interested in getting involved again in air quality issues because of that. And then from my experience in the air quality program, and then also one of the things that I've heard consistently from my conversations with folks while doing my due diligence about the position is what a great staff ORCAA has. And so I'm really looking forward to stepping in to work closely with the ORCAA team, the opportunity to join the team and take on a leadership role with this team. I find really exciting. And frankly, as I mentioned, I've been in my current role for about 7 years, so I'm kind of ready to take on some new challenges. I know that this new position will involve a lot of new challenges. I think I can bring a lot to the position, but I will be learning a lot. I've got a lot to learn. So I'm excited about that too. So in summary, I think I bring a lot to the table. But I think I am a great candidate to take on the responsibilities as the next executive director of ORCAA. So again, thanks for your opportunity. Thanks for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to chatting with you a little bit more and answering your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Is Frank on? Randy, I guess you're going to be the first question then. And let's please just do your name and where you're from again with your question so we can connect those better for Jeff.
My name is Randy Neville. I am a Mason County Commissioner. I'm just about to start my 10th year. 6 years before that as a port commissioner. Mine isn't going to be as much questions as much as a comment, I think. You know, a little history. I mean, when I first came on this board, I honestly thought that I was going to take this position on to go to war to stand up to protect my community and my businesses that are around me and stuff. And I quickly found that the competence of the staff and the leadership that we have here, that was never the case. I challenged it all in the very beginning. If the other board members remember, I asked a lot of questions. I challenged just about everything, but quickly I learned that our staff was extremely competent. But more than that, they were trying their best to find a way to get to yes. They were trying their best not to hurt businesses and organizations. And they were trying their best to help them survive whatever issue they came about. We've had a couple here recently, a couple really big fines that were put out. But because I know this staff and Fran tells me that it had to be done, there was no other choice at this point. They went through every possibility. I don't even have to question it. I believe her. And the reason why I'm saying all this is this organization is as good as it is, and I don't have to be a battler. Instead, I can be an active participant in trying to do good things because the leadership we have and the people that work for her are a direct reflection of Fran. Fran, I know you didn't know I was going to be doing all this when we were doing it, but I have a lot of respect for you. And I guess my question is not a question as much as a statement. Please talk to her if you're the one that they're selecting. I already believe you're going to be incredible, or they wouldn't have brought you this far, and you would not have had the kind words that were said about you in the beginning. Because again, I have great respect for Jim and all of them. They've earned my respect. If you get into issues in the beginning, please ask her. But more than that, please be wise enough to listen to your staff and let them get you through whatever they need to get through, because they're going to find a way to get to yes without crushing that business and without being a political activist. Again, when I first came in, I thought that's what I thought this was. That's what I was told it was. It was not. Everybody on this board pays attention to what they're doing, and every one of them is trying their best not to hurt people. So please, if you are selected, please take that leadership of Fran and copy it and bring it forward along with your own stuff. And I think we will have a wonderful relationship. If not, I can assure you, I'm always ready to go to battle. Everybody knows that about me, but I'd much rather have the respect continue that I have for this organization now into the future. And if you're the one selected, it's all going to rest on your shoulders, because when the staff does something different than what they've been doing, it's your leadership that caused that. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Instead of the questions, I'm sure you vetted them. So I'll be looking forward to your guys' conversations at the end in executive to see why and what you think.
Okay. Cynthia, how much time's left on that?
2 minutes and 14 seconds.
Jeff, any responses? It's your time.
Sure. Well, so thank you, Commissioner Netherland. So that's helpful context in that. And I, one of the things, actually, I did meet with Fran yesterday. We spent about an hour together, and I know, and she's offered to spend time with me during a transition period. And so I'm very much looking forward to, again, if I am selected, very much looking forward to learning from her as I step into this role. And certainly my management style is to work very closely with my staff. I certainly won't be stepping in and second guessing. And yeah, I mean, I looked forward to having a strong working relationship with staff. That's great to hear your perspective. Then again, as I kind of mentioned a little bit in my intro, I mean, that's very consistent with what I've heard about what a great staff ORCAA has. So I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go to Lynn next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, Jeff Johnston.
Thank you.
Lynn Hardy, Administrative Services Manager, and I work in a variety of areas with HR and risk management, payroll, accounts payable, grants, budget, etc. Jeff, can you share your experience and philosophy in managing budgets and grants, please?
Sure. So my experience managing grants. So the team that I manage in the cleanup program is responsible for managing about federal grants of about $2 million a year. We've got this, what's called the State Response Program grant, which is essentially an EPA brownfields grant that we manage that's a little less than $1 million a year. And then we've also got 3 grants from in what's called the tanks division. So for managing underground storage tanks and leaking underground storage tanks. So there's 3 grants there that come to close to $1 million a year. So I work closely with my staff to just, again, I'm not the day-to-day grant manager, but through check-ins with them, regular conversations also with the EPA management and grant managers, just kind of keep a sense of what's going on, how the spending is going. Again, it's important to manage the grants carefully and regularly, because again, you've got, the grants have particular work that needs to be accomplished as part of that. And then you have, you don't want to spend it early, or you don't want to end up at the end of the grant period with money left unspent. So that just takes careful planning, careful attention to detail in working with the folks who are managing the grant. So we asked about grants. I think you also asked about budget. So the way ecology works is the program budgets are managed at the program level, and each program has a budget manager. And so so each section doesn't have a specific budget. So that's not something that I've dealt with. So I guess my experience, certainly through the program management team and many conversations with the budget manager, had lots of conversations about it. About budget management. The cleanup program has approximately it's about a $50 million a year operating budget, and then per biennium, and then about anywhere from 60 million or so or more in capital budget. So the program has a large budget. My section has a relatively small part of that, but I'm again part of those conversations. So tell me, I'm not sure if I answered your specific question or not. Can you?
Yeah, it's what I was trying to retrieve from you is I guess the proximity of the budget and the working style with your team.
Okay.
And do you meet with them on a regular basis to update budget needs, and how do you oversee the budgeting process, making sure that we do have 4 main departments here, but we have one budget of right under 3 million that replaces the 50 million that's right now you have.
Right.
But we still have to go through the same processes, 1,500 employee agency versus 16, we still have all the same control, the same procedures, same process, small works, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. If I am selected and if I do step into the role, then certainly learning the budget and the details of the budget will be one of the first things that's important for me to do. From conversations I've learned that, again, that I'll be working with the staff, I'm sure, with getting some downloads, learning from Fran, but that getting the budget through before the end of June is one of the important things that the next executive director is going to be doing. And so I will be working closely with you, Lynn, and others to understand. I see regular meetings to understand the details of the various aspects to the agency budget. The money coming in, the expenditures, all of the different details. And so I look forward to spending a lot of time with you. My general approach is to know the details, know what's going on, understand where things are headed. Again, what's the spending rate? How is it remaining on track? Are we getting off track? So that I know the details, but yet but you or others will likely know more of the specifics. And so, but I'll certainly work closely with you to understand those as well, because again, in this role, I know that ultimately I would be the one responsible for managing this budget, keeping the agency within budget, and working with the board to approve a budget and so on.
We've been fortunate to have a pretty streamlined budget process here. It's remarkable. So, well, I definitely look forward to working with you, Jeff, if you're the chosen candidate. I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for the question, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. And Cynthia, just so I know, when you hold that up, is that the warning or the end?
It was the end, and I
Okay.
have the beeping going, but
No,
I
we couldn't hear it. So just wave at me, and if they don't see you, I'll help you. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay. I'm going to Josh next.
Great. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for being here today. It's always a fun new adventure in the way that we do these interview processes. So from the county's perspective, I'm the director of the Community Planning and Economic Development, the Permanent Planning Group. But Commissioner Mejia, who sits on this organization as a board member, I'm sure would like to hear first kind of a two-part question. First, your current assessment of the state of air quality. And then second, your future hopeful state and a plan on how you would help us get there.
Sorry, I'm just taking a note here. Okay, so assessment and then future state.
Your future hopeful state,
right,
of air quality.
Okay,
and how you plan to get us there.
Well, assessment of current air quality. I mean, and I've been out of air quality for a few years now, but I mean, all of ORCAA's jurisdiction is currently in attainment for the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for all of the criteria pollutants. And I think that air quality in the region is generally good. I know that there are sometimes issues the air quality issues tend to be in the wintertime associated with burning, either home heating or outdoor burning related to PM 2.5 soot. And so I think overall air quality is good currently. I believe that, I mean, one of the questions that I have that I've been kind of thinking about is the fact that I think the EPA is looking at lowering the National Ambient Air Quality Standard for soot for PM 2.5, perhaps both the yearly and the annual and the hourly standard, or the daily standard, I'm sorry. And so questions about whether or not that's going to, are any values in the ORCAA's jurisdiction in danger of being in exceedance of potential lower values. But so just broadly, I think the air quality is generally good from what I understand. But again, but there are likely local issues. And so I'll look forward to having conversations with staff and with the board about what are the more focused local issues. I know that Odell and others have been working on saturation studies, and so trying to understand more of how air quality varies within certain communities. And so look forward to learning more about that work and what does that data show. In terms of future state, what would I like the future state to be? I mean, ORCAA is a public health agency. And so how can we, I mean, I will look in my role as executive director in how to protect air quality, whether it's the 6 criteria pollutants, there's a lot of air toxics and some of those might be issues. And so just trying to understand those, and also trying to protect, air quality, or ensure that the air that citizens in the jurisdictions breathe is as clean as possible, but also, of course, balancing the fact that there are businesses. And so I know that there's often a challenge between balancing the needs of of economic development and the air that people breathe. And so I will be carefully, working with you, the board, with the staff to manage those issues. And so, yeah, I'm not sure in terms of a future ideal future state. I mean, ideal future state is clean air for everybody. That sounds kind of Pollyannish perhaps, but that's what I would be working for. I mean, one of the challenges that I know that we have, there's traditional air quality, but then there are climate impacts. And so how can the region manage any climate impacts that's coming at us due to climate change as well? And so again, there's a lot of work to do together, but I'm excited about doing that work.
Okay, no follow-ups, Josh? Okay, let's see. Let's save the time then, and I will go to Dan next. And Bill will be on deck. Let me do that, and that'll help you all know who's next.
So I'm Dan Nelson, the communications manager. So I was thrilled to hear one of your first statements being about outreach and communication. So I like to think of our current outreach and communications as kind of a direct-to-consumer model. A lot of what we do is working with local groups, local jurisdictions. So I guess my question is, what's your thoughts and philosophies on working at that level yourself with local cities and county jurisdictions, with homeowners associations and community groups?
Great question, Dan, and thank you. So, I mean, I think those are all going to be really important conversations to have. I mean, any way that the agency can get the message out around the importance of clean air, and again, is going to be critical, whether that's meeting with homeowners groups, Kiwanis Club, other civic groups, whoever we can get in front of, and again, working closely with the board members to know, who in the community should we be reaching out to. There's probably folks on the staff in the counties or the cities that we could be doing outreach to. I was in my conversation with Fran yesterday. She mentioned, Dan, that you and her had some outreach to some city planning staff and in the past, in pre-COVID times, and that was important. And so certainly be looking to continue that. I just see communication outreach is so important, so that if people are more aware of the importance of air quality, and well, why don't I want to have a burn barrel in my backyard, or why don't I just want to set off that burn pile, or why is it important to burn clean in my stove? I mean, if people understand the issues of why this is important, why air pollution is bad for their health, then that makes some of the other work that the agency has to do, I think, easier. So, and again, there's a lot that we could, perhaps do through social media, or, I mean, I don't know. I'm interested, Dan, in working with you, talking more about what the agency can do to get the word out about air quality issues. So, does that answer your question?
It does. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Bill with Mark on deck.
Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Bill Peach, Clallam County Commissioner. You've mentioned the notion of some challenges that you see ahead of you. Very interested in your understanding of challenges you're dealing with or could deal with that are a result of legislative action.
Sorry, just taking some notes here. Well, I mean, I'm familiar. So in my role, I mean, as working for a state agency, we often have, I mean, we need, my experience at ecology is we often have to implement what the legislature tells us to implement. And so, and sometimes we've had a hand in helping to shape that, and other times not. And so hopefully we've been at the table to help shape it. But in any event, there's often a bit of a disconnect between what ends up in statute and then what has to be implemented either by a state agency or a local agency. And so there are definitely challenges. I mean, one of the things in some of the conversations that I've been having over the past couple weeks that I think is going to be important for the agency to address relates to the Climate Commitment Act. And I've heard sort of Section 3 in the Climate Commitment Act and looking at air quality levels and, you know, how highly impacted communities, overburdened communities are impacted perhaps disproportionately by air quality issues. And so figuring out, okay, so there's this big broader, there's this legislative mandate, but then how does that get implemented on the ground level? And so I'm sure that there will be, I mean, so Bill, I've kind of gone down this in terms of challenges from the legislative mandate. So I guess broadly, I'm familiar with dealing with legislative challenges and then trying to figure out how to implement them, but I'm not sure that I'm addressing your specific question. Would you want me to give like a more specific example or?
Now, what I'm hearing you say is that you recognize the difference between what sometimes is mandated and what is realistic, and
Absolutely.
You're adaptive.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Bill. So I have Mark with Joan on deck.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning, Mark.
So we've worked in the past before, but just for clarification for everybody, I manage the engineers here at ORCAA and I'm in charge of getting the construction permits out. And one of the challenges that we've always dealt with is that ORCAA is a very small agency that's got to be functionally equivalent to a large agency like Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, who has over 50 staff. And so one of the essential things that we have to do is to not reinvent the wheel, to take advantage of work done by other agencies and ecology and EPA sometimes, and to stay ahead of everything coming down the pike as far as new regulations. So with that said, I'd like to hear a little bit about some of your philosophy and ideas and experiences in trying to be as lean and mean as possible to get the job done, given a small staff.
Great, Mark. Well, thanks for the question. Yeah, I recognize that that's a real issue. ORCAA does have a very small staff, has a very large area to cover. I mean, what immediately comes to my mind is the fact that there are 6 other local air agencies that are, have a lot, not all of the exact same issues, but some similar issues. And so I think working closely with other local airs to learn, okay, how are you dealing with this particular issue? That will be an important aspect to being lean. Another thing is thinking about things like general orders. How can we come up with simpler permitting strategies so that we don't have to write a custom NOC permit for every different source? I mean, if there are, and I know that the agency does have a variety of general orders, or I'm imagining that you do. And so that using templates, having clear policies and guidance for our staff so that we ourselves know how we're implementing it, but then also so that the regulated community knows how we're implementing it. So again, just as you said, lean, how to be as lean as possible so that we can be smart and do as much work as we can, but have as little of it being absolutely custom as, I mean, certainly some work will need to be custom, but focusing but only doing the custom work that we have to do. And so if there's other things we can do to streamline, then we should do that. So
Great.
I'll
Thank
stop
you.
there.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, Joan with Robert on deck.
Hi, Jeff. I'm Joan Cathy. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of Tumwater.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. I feel like I know you already a bit. This is the first time I've ever even seen you because I work with Pete Comet. And Pete Comet has schooled me very carefully and many things. And one of the things he really appreciated talking about, he emailed me and said, you know, call me. I have to tell you about Jeff Johnston, and we've worked together. And I don't know if you work side by side or somebody was over somebody else. That isn't what he talked about. He talked about you as a person. And I think that is extremely important. I have no question, like Pete said, you know, you are more qualified than a lot of people that you're going to find to do this job. And just to say, he said, get on with it. He would make a great director. So, but he talked about who you are a bit and how you did the work. And I was impressed with that because I feel like, and I'd like for you to confirm this. Well, first of all, I wanted to say, are you from California?
Not originally. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, so from the Midwest. But I did live. I lived in California for about 12 years. So actually more than that. So I've spent a lot of my adult life in California, but I'm not from there.
Well, it's important to me because I'm from there, and so I saw where the major part of your schooling was, and I wrote that down as some points for you. The other strange thing I want to know: do you have a dog?
I do not have a dog. No.
Okay.
In my conversation with Fran yesterday, and actually with other folks I've talked to about ORCAA, I've heard that it's very much of a dog culture. So I assured Fran that I'm not intending on coming in, if I were to be selected, would not come in and make any changes to that.
That's very good, because I think that Fran has done the fabulous job she's done because she consulted with her dogs often, and they were great guides for her. Anyway, what I'd like to hear you talk about, and it's kind of a difficult thing, but when you talk about style of leadership, and I'm just going to frame it this way, and you can go off anywhere you want with it. Would you consider yourself a person who leads more from the top down, or are you a walk beside person? And do you see yourself demanding respect even before you worked hard to earn it?
Okay, well, thank you for the question. In terms of my style of leadership, I definitely see myself as a walk alongside. I'm very much, I think, a consensus builder. I mean, I'm not somebody who comes into a situation with a set belief in, okay, this is how it has to be. I listen, and then I'll make a decision based upon sort of my understanding of the situation, the recommendations that I've received from there. So I'd say I'm a very involved manager, but I'm not a micromanager. But I meet regularly with all of my direct reports, and so as I mentioned, I've got about 30 in this section overall. And they're not all direct reports, but those that aren't direct reports, I make a point of meeting with at least twice a year to just understand what's going on with them, how are things going, what questions do they have for me, and how can I help them do their work. And it looks like I saw Councilmember Pratt holding up her hand, so I was
One, 42
minute.
seconds.
Okay. So, but I think I answered your question, but I can expand on it if that would be helpful, if there was something that I didn't address.
No, you did. You answered my question, and I asked that partly because I really appreciate the staff, as Randy said, and I'm just believing that you're going to come in if you're chosen and both lead and guide and walk among. So
that would be my goal, or that is my goal. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan.
mhm.
Okay, I have Robert with Jill on deck.
Good morning, Jeff. In full disclosure, we have worked together when you were in the air program. So I am familiar with your style, and you do have my respect. I can say that in advance of any of this.
Thank you.
And I think as a human being, you're a great person. So my question to you is again oh, I didn't introduce myself. My apologies. Robert Moody, Compliance Manager. Because I oversee the compliance enforcement activity, that's where my question will lead to you. And so describe your philosophy of compliance and enforcement.
Okay, well, Robert, thank you. It's great to see you again, and thanks for the question. So strategy of compliance and enforcement. So I haven't worked, when I was in the air quality program and currently in the toxics cleanup program, I don't directly supervise or do direct compliance and enforcement work, or my staff don't. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But we certainly in the air program and now in the cleanup program, we guide and lead and support the compliance and enforcement work going on around the state. And so a really important part of that work is, I think, technical assistance and education. I mean, that is just thinking back about specifically the underground storage tank inspectors that we work with and that we support. While yes, there's rigorous inspections and things that have to be checked. In the case of underground storage tanks, it's every 3 years. But as important as those inspections and those checklists is developing a relationship with and providing technical assistance to the businesses so that they understand why are the regulations the way they are, why is it important to do this particular thing or to not to do this particular thing. And so that's really important. But at the end of the day, when something is in violation of a state or federal regulation, it's important that there be consequences, but those consequences have to be consistent between businesses. So yeah, I mean, I see compliance and enforcement as a really important part of what ORCAA does, because that's what, again, holds people accountable to a lot of the regulations. But as I mentioned, education and outreach is a critical part of I think, any successful compliance and enforcement program. So I'll stop there unless you have any follow-up.
Well, I would agree with you. It sounds like, as Randy mentioned earlier, you can walk that fence line between air quality business, and like to hear that our philosophy here is try to be education first. So thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So I have Jill with Odell on deck.
Hi, Jeff. Jill Warney from Grace Harbor, County Commissioner.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Describe the most difficult decision you ever had to make at work.
Ooh, let's see. The most difficult decision I ever had to make at work. Well, let me think of a good example. I think, well, a difficult decision that I had to make, and actually I think I talked about this a little bit with the hiring panel a couple of weeks ago. Soon after taking on my role in the cleanup program, As I mentioned, one of my responsibilities to take on the IT, so to manage the IT systems. Well, so I had two different, so the IT systems as well as the policy group. So there's an IT system called CLARK, which is the Cleanup Levels and Risk Calculations Database that TCP, that the cleanup program uses. And there was an IT team, members of the IT team that were really pushing for this particular solution to this, that was sort of an elegant IT solution, and it was, in their mind, would help make the policy folks' job easier. But the policy folks really weren't that interested in it and didn't see it as really a problem and as a needed IT system. Again, I had stepped into this, and so it was started before my time. Frankly, a fair amount of money of contractor dollars had gone into developing this system, but it quickly, within, again, a couple months of me being in my role, it was pretty clear that trying to move forward with this project just did not make sense. Because at the end of the day, it's the business team that really needs it and will use it. They need to drive the IT development. Ultimately, the IT folks are, figure out how to do it and put the pieces together. But if there's not a business team to use it, ultimately, I pulled the plug on it again after 3 or 4 months after being in there, because I just saw it was just clear, again, and after a lot of different conversations with folks, and frankly, there was some hard feelings among some members of my team on the IT team, but also users from around the program, around the state, who were looking forward to some aspects of this new system. But I just knew that we weren't going to get there. So pulling the plug on it, that's just an example of a difficult decision that I made. And again, I went back and forth and really thought a lot about it, was really worried about it, but it was clear in my gut that it was the right decision. And after I made the decision, got a lot of feedback that yes, indeed, that was the right decision.
Yeah, sometimes you got to cut bait.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What's the most interesting thing about you that's not in your resume?
Ooh, good one.
I used to be a scuba instructor.
Oh.
So I was took some time after high school before going to college. So worked in Pasadena, California as a scuba instructor. Did a lot of diving on the California Channel Islands for many years before then moving to San Diego, where I started school.
Very brave. I have a son that likes that, but not me.
Yeah, I haven't done
looking at the water, but not being in it.
I've only dove in Washington once. The water's just a little too chilly here for
cold.
me.
Yes, cold. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything else right now.
Okay, thank you, Jill. So I have Odell, and then batting cleanup is Nick.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Odell.
So, I haven't worked with Jeff before, but he's kind of my academic cousin, so that's a little bit exciting. I guess I technically got my PhD from UCSD, although those of us down at Scripps can be a little snooty about it, so I apologize for that. So my question really is just about the ambient air monitoring program and what role you see that playing in ORCAA's future. And my intent behind this question is just to kind of get a sense of what direction I would be going, or if I would continue on the same direction, or how you see ambient air monitoring and the role that it could or should play in ORCAA's mission.
Great. Well, thanks for the question, Odell. I don't have, not like I'm coming in with a clear answer to that. I would want to work closely with you to understand what do you believe is the future of ambient air monitoring. In general, ambient air monitoring is a important and statutorily mandated part of ORCAA's mission to understand the ambient air quality around ORCAA's jurisdiction. And so I think, monitoring that and ensuring that that we maintain that network, but then thinking about, well, what are additional things that we could or should be doing with that network? One of the things that was kind of just starting to take off when I left the air program. And so I'm assuming that has only sort of gathered speed and sort of built momentum is around personal air monitors. And so are there, because I mean, so there are air monitors that are and again, it's been a while since I've thought through all of these things. So might not be able to bring all the right terminology to bear, but monitors that meet EPA standards are one thing. But so how do we, through using purple air monitors, could we understand more about the local variations in air quality that really are perhaps making more of a difference to the air that people are breathing on a day-to-day basis? I mean, there is only a limited number of EPA certified ambient air monitors, and again, with your question, I was thinking that where I initially went with that was that you were looking at the sort of EPA certified network, but maybe you were thinking more broadly about not just that network, but but other tools that we can use to understand ambient air. So I mean, I guess in general, I think understanding ambient air quality is one of the fundamental missions of ORCAA. How best to do that? What are the tools that we should bring to bear? I will work closely with you and others to really understand that. I'm not coming in with clear direction or assumptions about what needs to happen.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I didn't really have I was just kind of curious to know your thoughts and get a sense of where we might be going with that. So
okay.
I think that does. You're telling me that I can continue to drive that. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to working closely with you, Adele.
I actually can't pass up the opportunity to toot our own horn on the answer you gave, Jeff, because Odell and the other air quality managers in Washington have written a formula to match the purple air to the ambient monitors that are certified by EPA, and so we're now able to use that network for our saturation studies, and it's really cool and impressive. So I just thought it'd be good to throw that at you right now, so you have that context in the future.
Great, and that opens up all kinds of possibilities. So no, that sounds great.
Okay, Nick.
Hey, Jeff. I'm Nick, network administrator and de facto IT gremlin of ORCAA.
Nice to meet you, Nick.
I have kind of a weird question for you. Originally, it was kind of a pretty conventional job interview question, but something popped into mind and I kind of want to get your opinion on it. So when it comes to network security and really IT in general, oftentimes you'll hear talk about the CIA triangle. Where a triangle represents three legs of IT, and you have confidentiality of data, integrity of data, and availability of data making up the triangle. So since no information system can be completely confidential, completely integral, and completely available, which one of those things would you compromise to maximize the two others?
Let's see, so confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And which one would I compromise? Well, again, I'm just going to kind of think through this out loud. I mean, you need, and so again, I'm thinking about this in the context of the ORCAA data network, I'm assuming. Let's see, which one would I compromise? I mean, it depends upon, I guess it's going to depend upon the specifics of what particular data we're dealing with. I mean, if you're dealing with personally identifiable information, then you certainly can't compromise on confidentiality. So you might want to, so that data set's probably going to be less available. But you certainly need the infrastructure, and you need the confidentiality. In the case of air quality data, it might be, I mean, that's probably, confidentiality probably isn't as big of an issue, but it might be that availability and being able to access that data more readily would be more important. So I think, I mean, I certainly understand that it's a balance between all three, and that sometimes there has to be some give and take, but I think I would want to know specifically what's the application, what's the particular data that we're talking about, to know which of those three does it make sense to compromise and when.
Like it. I like it. I would agree with you 100% there, and I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all solution. You need to look at each case individually. I think I would agree with that 100%. I did have one follow-up question, and it's a question that was the last question during my job interview. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Ooh, I like them both. I mean, I grew up watching them both. So I don't know, lately probably more Star Wars than Star Trek, but I'm a big sci-fi fan.
Very cool, thank you.
As long as the answer wasn't neither, right, Nick? Okay, well, that brings us through our list, and so we're slightly ahead of what I planned. So thank you for that, everyone. And let me just see if our counsel, Jeff, do you have any follow-ups listening to this?
Let's see. Look,
no, sorry, Jeff Myers, our counsel.
I was wondering when the first time we were going to have a confusion between Jeff, the lawyer, and Jeff, the candidate. I guess I've appreciated your answers, and some of the questions have to do with your decision-making process. My question is, how do you view working with legal counsel? What have your experiences been in working with legal counsel? And how is it you view your own decision-making process when those hard decisions come to your desk?
Great. Well, nice to meet you, Jeff, and thanks for the question. So I do work pretty closely with legal counsel, both in the air quality program and now in the cleanup program. So in the air quality program, one of the issues that we worked with and actually had a case in front of the Pollution Control Hearings Board was involving emissions from some of the data centers over in Quincy, Washington. There are, and that's Ecology's jurisdiction. There's not a local air jurisdiction in Grant County. So the Ecology Eastern Regional Office writes those notice of construction and air toxics permits. But my team in the air quality program supported that work, and some of my staff then got to testify in front of the PCHB in support of the permits. So I've worked pretty closely with in that context on litigation on that issue. In the cleanup program, my work has been more sort of around policy. We're currently updating our cleanup regulation, and so we work closely with our AAGs that are assigned with cleanup program on legal issues. I mean, again, there's always this question, well, is that a policy issue or is there a legal issue? And so sort of parsing those and understanding, well, when is it a policy issue versus when is it a legal issue? And the way I look at, the conversations that we have sometimes with our attorneys are, well, they're giving us their legal advice. Sometimes policy decisions get made for different reasons that might not necessarily be fully in line with what our with what our attorneys would say based upon the legal decision, but for very political or policy decisions, the agency decides to do something different. Hopefully, it has low risk, and it's but. So I understand. I've had lots of conversations with attorneys, work closely with our AAGs, and so understand the distinction. And again, hopefully, policy and legal issues are working hand in hand, but I recognize that that's not necessarily 100% always how things work out.
Are you comfortable being sued?
Hopefully, well, I guess I certainly don't want to be sued. That's not where, I mean, hopefully we'll never get the agency in a place. And if I'm this chosen candidate, I will look to minimize any legal risk. And so, in bringing up that issue, I certainly wasn't suggesting that I'm a cowboy or that I disregard my attorney's advice. I mean, I think very carefully about it, and I certainly would consult with the board before making any decisions that are contrary to our legal advice. And again, maybe I'm over highlighting that as something that, because that rarely comes up. I mean, and frankly, it's not a decision I've made, because as a section manager, that's more something that the program manager, the agency manager would make. So maybe it just was bringing it up more just to identify the fact that I see that that it's an issue and that it's a distinction and something that you sometimes have to work through.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. Jim?
Thank you, Jeff. Now to you, Jeff. We'll give you about 2 or 3 minutes for any closing thoughts or comments before we move into our discussion about your qualifications.
Great. Well, I just wanted to say thanks, everybody, for the time this morning. Thanks for considering me as a candidate. I do think that I would bring a lot to the table if you select me. I guess, I mean, since we've only got a couple minutes, the only thing that I was thinking about, is there anything that hasn't come up in the conversations today that you think I should know that are really important to you, that you're looking for in the next executive director for ORCAA?
And I think I'll recap how I opened. It's a good closing for this part of the process. So when we met in the interview, the sort of balance that the board is looking for, and I think it's important for the public to understand, is we need someone that is a people person that's able to do staff development and customer service first and foremost, that understands the bureaucracy and can do all the paperwork, and to your point, that balance of policy and legal, and then that leads into a hearings examiner role, so quasi judicial. It's really a balanced position, and I think there's the thing we knew going in is we wouldn't have a candidate that was a 10 in all 3 of those legs of the stool. And so, there will be some learning opportunity for whoever gets hired in this position, I think. And even Fran would attest to the curve when she came in from, other parts of government. So that's what I would say. And I'll just say, any board members want to add any follow-up to that? Okay. Well, Jeff, it's been a real pleasure spending this time with you and getting to know you over the past couple of weeks. Thank you for doing the due diligence and participating in the process up to this point. So we're going to do some deliberations and talk about you behind your back. And then I will reach out to you individually at my first convenience later today.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. It was nice to meet you, and we'll see you again.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so at this point, our agenda has good of the order next. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll do our executive session, just because that's what we published and agreed upon. Is there anything for the good of the order? So I want to take a moment, because I think our next meeting will be rather short on Monday, and thank Councilmember Pratt, Deputy Mayor Pratt, for her service to ORCAA. This is her next to the last meeting. And she's been sitting on this board for 12 years and been the vice chair for a large portion of that. And honestly, every interaction and experience I've had with Cynthia along the way, I've been learning, and she's helped guide me. She's a master of finance and policy and wordsmithing even, which is a great balance to her skill set. And I just want to say thank you from the agency to Cynthia for her service. We really appreciate you, and you're going to have big shoes to fill.
Thank you so much. I really will miss this council, actually. I've learned so much, but also I think it's been a really great board for making policy about air quality and, you know, whatever else that we need to follow through with our policy. So it's been great.
Thank you, Cynthia.
It's been an honor serving with you, Cynthia. It really has.
Thank you.
Are you going on a trip?
No, I'm actually taking on some more things.
I figured so, yeah.
Of course.
That's why I asked
That's
about
what
the trip is from one responsibility to another.
Exactly. So, yeah, there's many other things and stuff I need to finish up that I'm still doing now. That's not council work, but I want to continue and finish up and stuff. So I'm in the middle of a second manuscript and this kind of thing, and hard to concentrate on it until I get some time.
Well, now that you're leaving the Lacey Council, I have placed them higher on my prayer list.
I think we have great people that the woman that took my place.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just really pleased about. So she's young, energetic, smart, funny. It's great. Funny is important, in my opinion, to be on council.
Well, you feel good when you're leaving after as much as you've done, Cynthia, and as faithful as you've been to the job. I was so happy to see her elected because that's what you want to pass your seat and some of your legacy on to. So
thank
you. Blessings on you.
As I told Scott Spence, our city manager, it's not like I'm going away. There's always comments not on the agenda, and he's going to have to deal with that.
Okay.
Right on.
So
good you gave him warning.
Well, Cynthia, the organization has a gift for you, and we'll get that to you. And I'm pretty sure you'll see a few of us at your going away event, which is on Monday, the 20th at 6.
I think so. Yeah, it's right after a meeting, and then it'll be, I think it's 6.
Yeah. And so you should be able to find that on the Lacey City Council website, and there's a Zoom and an in-person option. So
yes, and I would love to see all of you there.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, and please put in a good word for how important this role is. A lot of people coming in don't understand that this is really the only regulatory role there is outside of the city council position when you think about the other assignments that we have, and it's really important. So thank you for putting a plug in for the right person to join us.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, anything else for the good of the order?
Jim, I just want to say on behalf of ORCAA and ORCAA staff, Cynthia, it's been a pleasure working with you all these years. I mean, I've known you a long time, even before ORCAA, and I really appreciate your dedication and your skills and abilities, and you're just a pleasure to work with. So good luck in the future. I know all staff feel the same way. We couldn't have done this without you, and you always step up and take on responsibility. So thank you, and you've been wonderful to work with, and we wish you the best in the future.
Thank you, Fran. I appreciate that. It's great.
Great. Okay, so our next agenda item, we're going to go into executive session. And so in a moment, Nick will help me facilitate stopping the recording and moving everyone except for the board and council, Jeff Myers, into the waiting room. And so we can have a closed executive session to discuss performance and qualifications pursuant to RCW 42.30.110. We will be in executive session for no longer than 60 minutes. We will come back out to the public meeting and pull everyone from executive session or from the waiting room and restart the recording just for the purposes of adjourning. There will be no other action following executive session today. And then we have a special meeting of the board scheduled for 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And so with the possibility of considering a contract if we so desire in our conversations today. So any questions before we do that? Everyone know what they signed up for? Okay, Nick, go ahead and hello, everyone. Just wanted to reconvene the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency meeting for December 8th. We're coming out of executive session for the purposes of adjourning the meeting. No decisions were made. There will be a special meeting of the Olympic Region Clean Air Agency Board at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And we will possibly consider a contract at that time. And with that and no further business before the board, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.